Okay, good afternoon. Today is day 63 of little videos to describe a day in the life of the schizophrenic Dominic, me, and to express some sanity amidst the world going crazy on me and turning it around and telling everybody that I was crazy when they were waging political war on me to discredit me for whatever reason. I guess because I was involved in activist or political organizations, or I don't know. But or that because I came into realization that a hypothesis that uh, war was fake around the world. Okay, so I do a little intro here today for this purposes. On day 17 and day 45, I make videos. I've made videos and put them on my pinned threads and pinned Facebook posts. And in day 17, it describes why I choose to call myself a schizophrenic rather than targeted individual. And in day 45, it has a 3-minute intro to explain why I make these videos. And okay, so I read little books, I think little thoughts, and I express them here on a daily basis. So uh, it's a way to practice camera presence for whatever I do in the future going forward as well. So World Baseball Classic. I was watching baseball today. I'm happy that baseball is coming back in spring training for the baseball season, and I get really excited. And as I expressed in an earlier post about our video about the Super Bowl, when you're schizophrenic, one of the things that happens is what you do on a daily basis affects the outcome of sporting events, and it's possible that this is being conducted through brain control. And it's possible that there's organizations that can control the players through brain control. And I think there was a lot of things happening a few years ago where you saw the synchronization of the players as they were jumping in the games or whatever, or like running up and down the court or passing the ball or charging at it for defense and stuff. And it was all being synchronized, and it was really spooky when you saw it, almost like the AI has taken over. And it's not just sports, it's really the whole society. AI is controlling everything. And it's really crazy. We're totally synchronized, we're totally linked up to AI as a society. I think it's called the World Sentient Simulation. It was a Purdue University paper. And it was just interestingly enough, because I'm going to go into something maybe a little bit later here in this video about Purdue University and a gentleman by the name of Richard Borgens. And yeah, so I'll hold off on that for a second. And I was going to talk about Trump and his eugenics. He's promoting people in positions in the military and in positions in his administration that are pro eugenics people. And if you know anything about eugenics, you know that it was a 20th century idea and a 19th century idea and an ancient idea that goes back. And there's two different types of eugenics. There's positive eugenics and there's negative eugenics. And the Nazis practiced a negative, and a negative means that they killed people and they sterilized people, and they performed experiments on people, eugenics experiments on people. And I actually have a Facebook page. When I first experienced schizophrenia, I discussed that schizophrenia was a eugenics operation, and that it's an extrajudicial detention and torture of people using an eugenics operation, as they are controlling your social environment and making it kind of impossible to engage in a regular social interaction in which you reproduce eventually. or form a family, basically. And so, yeah, yeah, I still think that's true. It's lessened to a certain extent. I guess maybe in the heightened form of schizophrenia, it really is kind of like that. Even though they're trying to constantly set you up with people, it's kind of fake. I don't know how to explain it, but it's yeah. And, I was struck by the schizophrenia because I was reading Harari, Noah Yuval Harari, and he describes that schizophrenics are going to be can be cured potentially with new brain implants and linking brains to computers. That's like the idea that being posited. He discusses how cures are always posited as the reason to expand knowledge in certain scientific fields that have potential for negative uses, such as controlling our minds and bodies. And so, yeah, I suppose it's relative to someone's outlook whether they view that negatively or not. I do. I view controlling my mind negatively, but some people are going to say, like, no, it's just an enhancement. We're coming into one with the AI, and we're all being enhanced as a species. And it can be that way. It can be like an enhancement, I suppose. But what about like your natural ability to discern reality and think and stuff? How much of that is being interfered with when you're linked up to a computer and so or an AI, which is what I discussed here. I think we're all linked up to the AI. It's ironic, and probably purposefully, that the cure for schizophrenia is being posited as linking brains to computers because schizophrenics have said they're being experimented with like computers and being their brains linked up and being mind reading and voice hearing and all that for century. And so now they're saying like, "Oh, cure schizophrenia by causing schizophrenia." Okay, so I think that's kind of funny, but yeah. All right, so I was gonna get into something here. Speaking of schizophrenia, but or affecting reality. Uh, I don't really affect reality this way, but I've recently saved up money. It contributed to my mom's rent, like a monthly stipend to my mom, and we are going to buy Disney tickets for my immediate family to go to Disneyland and for my 40th birthday, and we picked out restaurants. And so I was excited that I could pick out restaurants, and we got the restaurants we wanted. And I hope other people get their restaurants they want, but I'm glad that I got the restaurant that I want. Uh, we're going to sit fours and fours instead of eights. And so we got Orleans Cafe, Carthay Circle in California Adventure, and uh, I think there's a Wine Trattoria restaurant, which is a little Italian restaurant in the California Adventure. And these are probably they're not cheap little places, but we like to have a sit down meal in the middle of the day when we go, and then head back to the hotel or whatever. So this is the it's an expensive trip. I can only do it like once every 2 years when we do these trips or whatever. But eventually, when I go to work, I could save up more money and we could do it more often. But I'm if I was going to join a cult, I would probably join the Disney cult. Uh, I think I may be in the Disney cult now. I'm not like a high roller in the Disney cult, but I will spend the money. So I'm definitely it's like a Disney. I'm like a I'm in the Disney cult, and it took me a while to get into it, but yeah. So I'm if I was going to join a cult, it'd probably be Disney, and I think I may have joined it unknowingly. In probably I did. Okay, so that being said, Carl Sagan says in choosing a hypothesis, okay, this is going to something totally different now. Carl Sagan said in choosing a hypothesis, there isn't any virtue in being timid. And made me think like when I was writing my book and everything, I posit that, I asked the question, I guess it's a hypothesis that wars in like particular places around the world, such as Ukraine or something, that maybe they're fake, like 1984. And so it's hard to say that it's a highly my hypothesis because George Orwell made the hypothesis 80 years ago or something. So, it's not really a hypothesis and so much as it's an observation based on the reality and the narrative that we're presented with in mainstream media. And so I'm not really timid on it. I'll just say like it's a question that I have, and I think it's a legitimate question, and I think there's a lot of evidence. Like for instance, I just think like when you see a situation where the Pentagon spokesperson said fake corpses, fake bodies, fake mourners, fake victims, and fake explosions could create a scenario for justification for the war. And it makes you wonder is like, well, could it create a whole war could it create a whole series of fake events for the purposes of justifying budget for a war? And then you see like a comedian going around, like there's Zelensky going around Ukraine all the time in his jacket and stuff, walking around and stuff. And then you see Biden comes in, and the leaders of Britain come in, and the leaders of Europe come in, and they walk around the war zone, and a lot of times they're like smiling, like it's like it's they can't even hide their euphoria of like, man, we're ripping people off, or who knows what they're doing. Maybe they're not ripping us off. Maybe they're putting stuff towards breakaway sieve because we need to escape Earth. For instance, like there's a asteroid coming, and I think it's been downgraded to a like less than 0.1% chance now, but there was a scare for a moment, and so yeah, maybe we have to get off this Earth, and I I don't know why they have to keep it a secret, but maybe there's reasons, and I go back and forth. I have a little more in-depth thoughts on this than other times. Today my brain is a little bit mush, and I'm not really thinking straight on it, but yeah. Carl Sagan says, don't be timid in your hypothesis. And so I think it's good not to be timid when you ask questions. It's just questions, and it's okay to ask questions. Particularly when you live in bubble worlds that we live in localities, like people live in very local spaces and they don't get out of their local spaces, or even when you get out in your local spaces, you're still going from like one local to another local. It's like small points on a map. It's not really extensive travel and stuff. And I know some people can do extensive travel, but if you're not asking questions, then you're probably dumb. All right, so I was going to get into Richard Borgens here, and he ended up at Purdue University, and he fixed dogs' spinal cords. Like you ever see those dogs that run around with the wheels on the back and stuff? And he used an electric stimulator, and it was stimulated their spine. And in the 1990s, in a trial on dogs, after 6 months, 7 dogs could walk again, and all the dogs could go use their bladder and use the rest, go to the bathroom. They don't use the restroom, but go to the bathroom, or go number 2 and 1. And so Mary Holman George, the lady that was the CEO of uh, uh, the race car driver, I don't know, the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. She used to say, "Gentlemen, start your engines and stuff." In the name of the S500, she donated $2.7 million to that effort. So now I think they're testing on humans. If I'm not mistaken, I'm reading this in my book. We are electric, and so I got to stop here. This has been 15 minutes, so thank you for listening. Goodbye, everybody.